devices. Do vibration boards work? And what wall anchor and bungee cords do you use? So, excellent question. The vibration boards, there's mixed reviews. I would not say it's a cure-all. I use it, I probably use it once or twice a week with a patient. Usually we're using it to increase sensory input. So, for example, I used it this week with a patient who's having a lot of balance problems. He has some delayed balance reactions, which a lot of you have as well, meaning that you react slower than you would like to when your brain actually finally receives the information that you're actually losing your balance. So we have sensors in our feet that give information to our brain, and then we react to that information by correcting when those sensors feel like a uneven distribution of forces on our feet. That's kind of a simplified explanation, but where vibration plates can come in handy is they're just kind of giving more like sensory input into the brain. So, I mean, do they work? Yeah, I think they work a little bit for that purpose. Getting on a vibration board first, kind of, I don't know. I mean, this is kind of probably not scientific, but kind of like waking up all of those sensors a little bit and then going into the balance activities for that session is one of the ways that I use it. And I think it's pretty valuable. The other way that it is valuable is on a slower speed. It actually perturbs you a little bit. So it actually gives you the sensation that you're off balance a little bit. So that's another way that I use it. And it works pretty well for that as well. So if you're good on smooth surfaces, you're good in a controlled environment, but you're not good in like unpredictable environments or large crowds, things like that, where you might get pushed or bumped, you don't feel confident with those situations, I think it's valuable. I also talked recently about doing like arm weight bearing on a vibration plate to give sensory input into the brain as well. If you have a weak arm or like even like a flaccid arm, that might help to kind of wake it up a little bit. So I have used it like that in certain situations, and I think it's a valuable tool. They're heavy, they're big, so those are probably some of the downsides of them. You would just have to try it out. Some people say they work great. Some people that I've put on it, just kind of forewarning you, hate it. Something about that vibration just makes them feel dizzy and nauseous. And I usually don't know who those people are. There's no kind of rhyme or reason to it. That's probably happened twice in the time that I've used it. So, you just have to take all that into consideration and just know that it's not for everyone. But again, it's a tool just like everything else I talk about on my channel. So hopefully that was helpful. What wall anchor and bungee cords do I use? Anytime I use the wall anchor in a YouTube video, I put the link below the video. And then the bungee cords, I like the snap free bungee cords. So they last a lot longer. Rubber degrades. So when they're in that kind of, the snap free ones are in kind of like a fabric casing. And I do find that they last longer because the rubber tubing doesn't break down as quickly. So those are the bungees that I like. The other thing I've started to use a lot more are what they call the pull-up assist bands. Those are those really big looped bands that I use sometimes. Those seem to never break. I mean, I've had some of those for probably a couple of years now, and they're not like cracking or anything. So I'm kind of leaning more in that direction towards the pull-up assist bands. And all I do is just hook a carabiner, I think that's how you say that, right onto the band. And then you can hook that right onto like a wrist cuff, an ankle cuff. You can really hook it onto anything. You can do like the squats that I've shown with it, where I just kind of like put myself inside of it. So they're really great, and they can be used just like the bungee cords, and then you can get them in different sizes. So of course, like the ones that actually are used for pull-ups, those are meant to like lift like over 100 pounds. So what that means is, remember, that means that you are having to pull 100 pounds. So make sure that when you're getting that and you're going to use it for the purpose of like Strength training, you're going to want to go way to the low end. The light end is still pretty hard to use. I think if you do use the heavy one, it's especially for like arm stuff, you're not even going to budget. Yeah, I would even say maybe even for some like squats and stuff. I'm probably not the strongest person, but I probably couldn't do squats with like the strongest one, because again, it's intended to lift a lot of weight. So just keep that in mind if you do order the pull-up assist bands and use them as resistance bands.
I'm going to briefly interrupt this video to take a minute to talk about protein. Surprisingly, I learned recently that only 15% of the calories in the Western American diet comes from protein. Now, on one hand, I'm surprised, but on the other hand, I'm kind of not surprised given the rise in the rate of diseases in America. But it's so unfortunate when we know that protein, which are really just amino acids, literally are the building blocks of every cell in our body. But beyond that, they are necessary for the proper functioning of every cell in our body. And most importantly for all of you, brain cells. So if you're anyone that's trying to recover from a neurologic injury, or you're just trying to optimize your overall brain health, meaning memory, recall, concentration, attention, you need protein. But beyond that, if you're someone that's just trying to lose weight, we know there's no dispute that protein is the most satiating of the macronutrients, macronutrients being proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. But in addition to that, but even beyond that, excess protein cannot be stored as fat, unlike carbohydrates and fats, where excess carbohydrates and fats are stored as fat. So it's protein satiating, can't be stored as fat, is the building block of all the cells in our body, and is required for the proper functioning of all of the cells in our body. Now, how much protein should you be getting? The recommendation for adults is 0.8 to 1 gram per kilogram of body weight. Now, I know for me, that is a very large amount of protein. That's very hard for me to get that amount of protein in. And that's where today's product spotlight comes into play. These are Pop-Tarts. Yes, a protein Pop-Tart. This brand, Legendary, has literally cracked the code on creating something that actually tastes like a Pop-Tart, that has 20 grams of protein and only 4 grams of sugar, and I absolutely love these. The texture, that bread texture of a Pop-Tart, that icing on the top, and that filling in the middle, spot on as far as texture and flavor. The brown sugar cinnamon, I think these ones are called, are my favorite. Now, the way I like to use these is I usually break them in half. Someone my size, eating these on a regular basis as a snack is probably not a good idea as far as monitoring or keeping track of my overall caloric intake each day. And I usually like to have these after a run that's usually over 45 minutes to an hour. And actually, that's why this package is open, because I did an 8-mile run earlier today and I ate half of one of these as a nice treat after my run. But anyway, so when this opportunity presented itself, I had to jump on it since I was already a regular consumer of these bars, and I really do think they're super tasty. I have a sweet tooth. I know a lot of people have a sweet tooth, so I prefer, if I'm going to satisfy that sweet tooth, why not also get in some of that protein that is kind of hard for me to get in on a daily basis. But more importantly than all of that, or purchasing a Pop-Tart, especially if you don't like Pop-Tarts, if you are someone that's trying to lose weight, improve your brain health, recover from a neurologic injury, get that protein in. Remember, 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight is the take-home message. If you want to check out these bars or purchase these Pop-Tarts, link is in the description below.
If you liked that video and you want to learn more exercises on how to improve your walking, definitely check out this video over here or that video over there. If you want even more help, check out our Gold membership program, where you will get access to over 300 exercises that are not here on YouTube, as well as access to our monthly lives where you can get your questions answered.